Chapter 57. Knock, knock, knock. Mickey was dressed in a conservative skirt and blouse, and had a bag with her personal belongings slung over her shoulder. Clutched in her arms, held close to her body since they were so precious to her, were the letters Jason had sent her. She stood on the steps of a modest but well-presented home in Prospect Heights in New York City. The quiet, leafy streets lined with old brownstones were charming, and it certainly would be a place Jace would love to live. Walking to Terry's address, Mickey passed the Prospect Park Zoo, a wonderful dog beach, and a park with what seemed like miles of bike paths. Thought Mickey. Food for thought. There wasn't any answer, so Mickey tried again. Knock, knock, knock. From inside she heard a voice. 1 second. After a few moments, the door opened, and a shapely, red-haired woman reacted as if she automatically knew who Mickey was and why she was there. I'm sorry, I'm not interested. Undeterred, Mickey asked, Are you Terry? Shocked, the woman stopped closing the door. Opening it again, she had a look of quizzical bemusement as to why this person she had never met knew her name. Yes. I'm sorry, do I know you? Came Terry's reply. Not yet. I am Mickey Marsalis, Jason Marsalis' wife. It took a total of 0.5 seconds for Terry to fling the door wide open and shoot straight into Mickey's arms. Oh, Mickey! Terry's reaction caught Mickey completely by surprise. For a few moments, she didn't know what to do with her hands, then decided a return hug would be appropriate. Please, Mickey, please come inside, said Terry. Mickey stepped through the door into a well-decorated apartment. It looked lived in, and she saw several different ways the apartment had been decorated that she would love to try. In the meantime, she decided to start with an apology. I'm sorry, Terry. I know you didn't expect. No, said Terry. I am so happy you came. I've wanted so many times to reach out to you, but I knew you didn't know who I was. Honestly, I didn't know what I would say when I came to see you either. Look at me, Terry said with a chuckle. For someone who doesn't know what to say, I seem to be talking a lot. Leading Mickey to the couch in the living room, Terry said, Please, have a seat. Can I get you something to drink? Maybe some water or coffee? Coffee sounds nice. Just a little bit of cream if you have it. Of course. I'll be right back, said Terry as she left for the kitchen. As she was waiting, Mickey looked around the room. The closer she looked, the more details she noticed. It seemed Terry was interested in antiques. Not the kind from 100 years ago, but more like those of 1,000 years ago. Shelves were graced not only with books, but with replicas of ancient artifacts as well. Looking at the far corner of the room, she saw something that made her heart stop. Getting up from her perch on the couch and walking across the room, Mickey picked up a picture displayed in a place of honor on the baby grand piano. It was a picture of Terry, a man she knew Jason had worked with named Dennis, another woman she had met a couple of times named Diana, and there was Jason. They were all smiling at the camera, and their arms were around each other's shoulders. Mickey wondered what all this meant. What kind of life did Jason lead when he was at work? She knew Jason was faithful to her, but what else was happening when he was away? It seemed there was a part of her husband, perhaps an entire life, she had no idea existed. Smiling to herself, she wondered, maybe he was a secret agent? We took that picture just before it happened," said a voice right behind her. Instantly twirling around, Mickey reacted as if she'd been caught with her hand in the cookie jar. I'm sorry for intruding on your things." "Don't be," said Terry. Standing in the doorway with 2 cups of coffee, she added, "Jason was an amazing man. He always talked about you and how much he was in love with you. Believe me when I tell you, many in this world can only wish they had a man as devoted to them as he was to you, sweetie." Mickey looked down at the picture in her hands and for a moment thought she would begin to cry. She was tired of crying so much. Seeing the emotions welling up in Mickey, Terry said, "Here, let's drink our coffee on the couch. You can bring that with you." Mickey accepted Terry's hospitality and walked back over to the couch. Sitting down and setting the picture on the coffee table, Mickey took the cup of hot coffee and enjoyed a rejuvenating sip. "I'm curious. How did you know where to find me?" asked Terry. "Jason gave me your address." "He gave you my address?" retorted Terry. "How could he have done that?" Putting down the coffee, Mickey reached into her bag and produced Jason's second letter to her. After reading the letter, it now became clear how Mickey had found Terry. But that still didn't explain why Jason told Mickey to seek out Terry. "This letter talks about some additional papers," said Terry. "Oh," responded Mickey, "I almost forgot. Jason wanted me to give you this Greek writing." Terry accepted the papers, which were in an envelope. Opening it, she instantly recognized the letters weren't Greek. They were Galimarian. Dear Terry, if you are reading this, then something has gone horribly wrong with the trip I'm about to take to save the Galimarians. I don't know what can go wrong, but one thing I do know is that I don't trust Admiral Brinstock. He is a loose cannon, and I wouldn't put it past him to do something to get me out of his hair. If that is what has happened, I ask that you trust me and know that I will figure out a way out of this. In the meantime, I need you to seek out Diana, Lynn, and Dennis and meet with them in my living room in Sonora on the first day of the month. No doubt you are sitting there with Mickey right now, so I would appreciate it if you would do me a few favors. Mickey is incredibly smart. It was actually something she said when we were on a trip to Las Vegas that helped me figure out a breakthrough with the portal. Tell her everything that happened. Tell her about the portal. Tell her about how we used it to thwart terrorist activities. Tell her about what I really did for a living. And tell her about how I had to go to Galimar of the past to help the Galimarians so that the world wouldn't be destroyed. Tell her about the Admiral and about how he's the low-down scumbag that he is, and how he needs to be stopped for what he no doubt did to me. Trust her with anything and everything, Terry. She is a smart girl, and she will no doubt be one of your best allies. Terry, my friend, in the short amount of time I have known you, you have wormed your way into my heart. Worm your way into Mickey's, too. Trust me when I say she will be a lifelong friend that you will never want to let go. With affection, Jason. Terry looked up at Mickey and smiled. She knew it always irritated Jason that there was so much of his life Mickey never knew existed. Now, Terry would be the one to tell her all that had happened. Girlfriend, we have places to go. But before we do, I have a long story to tell you about the day Jason left us. Over the next 2 days, Terry recounted an amazing tale of all that had transpired. Mickey learned about the island of New Galimar. She learned about the Midway Magnetic Particle Accelerator, the XYZT portal, and the impending volcanic doom in Yellowstone. She learned how Jason and Dennis had single-handedly saved the lives of not only the peaceful alien race on New Galimar, but also the lives of every man, woman, and child on Earth. Terry could see that Mickey was having a hard time accepting the truth of the tale she was weaving. So finally she said, "Will you excuse me for a moment?" "Of course," said Mickey. Terry noticed that, while being nice, Mickey had a look about her that showed she was waiting for the cameras to jump out and declare she was on a TV gag show. Smiling, Terry had an idea how to show Mickey this was all real. But she had to run it by Corlin first, in the other room. Once she returned to the living room, and to the same couch where Mickey was seated, Terry said, "Mickey, I can see you're having a hard time believing all this." Mickey looked down at the carpet, knowing she had just been read like a book. She started to speak. "Well, Interrupting her, Terry said, "I don't blame you. I know all I've been telling you is a story that somewhat stretches credibility." Mickey rolled her wide eyes to show she agreed. "I want you to do me a simple favor," continued Terry. "What do you want me to do?" "It's simple," replied Terry. "Just put on this amulet." Mickey put it on, and, as Terry watched, Mickey's eyes closed, and the most serene expression came over her face. Reliving her own first contact with Corlin, she knew all that was happening to Mickey right then, and felt privileged to be part of Mickey's first experience with this wondrous people, whom Terry now identified with and loved. In the outside world, Mickey was only gone with Corlin for about 10 minutes. But the sensation of time passing in-world was far longer from her perspective. When Mickey eventually opened her eyes again, she immediately began sputtering an apology for being gone so long. But Terry shushed her and explained how long she was actually gone. It was then the two women shared a moment of silent communication, doing nothing more than staring in each other's eyes. Eventually, Mickey's jaw went slack, and she slowly shook her head back and forth. You don't have to say anything," Terry said, already knowing what Mickey was feeling. "I know it was a lot to take in, but you had to see how beautiful this race of people is, and for whom Jason risked his life." A small window of silence passed between them. Then Terry's eyes took on a look of sorrow. She recounted the sad tale of what Admiral Brinstock did to Mickey's husband, and how Jason was lost forever when Kenji turned off the portal. When she heard this, Mickey felt like her legs had been knocked out from under her. She understood the amazing things she had learned about her husband needed to stay secret. But this was nothing short of murder. And what made it worse was the Admiral had the audacity to lie not only to Mickey, but no doubt to anybody else who was in the know about the portal. Mickey felt violated. This Admiral, this animal, had taken something precious from Mickey, and then saw to it she was lied to. Not only did Mickey feel violated, but the more she thought about it, she felt the most extreme form of red rage she had ever experienced. Needless to say, an earthquake was tearing through Mickey's world. A lesser woman may have crumbled, but not Mickey. She was instantly able to see the bigger picture, and what a picture it was. Yes, there were aliens. Yes, there was a time travel portal invented by her own husband, no less. And yes, her husband was a sort of secret agent. But more importantly, he was a hero to everyone in the world. Then, in the face of all this heroism, this monster kills the very one who saved his own butt. The two women immediately made the necessary arrangements for their trip to Sonora. It wasn't until the flight back that Terry explained to Mickey the money Jason left was the reward money the president himself had given to Jason for having provided information on the apprehension and elimination of a dangerous terrorist named Quinn O'Cassidy. Mickey remembered hearing about it on the news, and how that all but assured the re-election of the currently sitting president. Knowing how pivotal a role her own husband played in that operation made Mickey proud beyond words. To think that the man she went to sleep next to was a true hero, it was almost too much to imagine. Soon enough, the day came on the 1st of the month when Terry, Mickey, Dennis, Diana, and Lynn were all seated in Jason's office at home. Mickey had paid for all travel arrangements, so the group could be there. After coffee had been served, she was the first one to talk. I want to thank all of you for coming to my home. It's only recently I have learned about the real job my husband had at Midway Magnetic and the role he played in the events leading to the world being a safer place. I'm not sure what the next step is, but I do know he wanted us to seek out each other. I've had the opportunity to become friends with Terry now, and, as Jason predicted, she and I are the best of friends. As far as the rest of you, I really look forward to getting to know you all, and getting to know the real kind of person my husband was when he was away from me. One thing I can tell you for sure, said Dennis, is I was always a little jealous of Jason. He seemed to have the perfect balance of being dedicated to his job, yet so amazingly dedicated to you and his son. In fact, I think it was that dedication which made Kenji do what he did. Diana nodded her head. I remember when I first started as the administrator of the facility, I hadn't had a chance to read the personnel files of all the people who worked directly for me. But I remember seeing Jason the first time and how taken I was with him. At the time, I started considering what the consequences of a romantic relationship with him would be. Fortunately, I hadn't made a complete fool of myself by making comments to him before I read he was married. I am so glad I didn't say anything, said Diana, laughing. Mickey joined in the laughter as well. What I don't get, said Lynn, is why the Admiral hated Jason so much. I mean, my God, the guy literally saved the whole world. How could you hate a guy like that? It's because he couldn't control him, replied Diana. Dennis nodded. There was more than one occasion when the Admiral told him to be present for a meeting, and Jason told him what he could go do with himself. I remember one of the last times was something having to do with taking a trip out of town for his anniversary. I think he said he was going to Las Vegas. Oh my God. He put himself at risk so he could go on that trip? Asked Mickey. Not exactly, replied Dennis. Yes, the Admiral called and tried to strong-arm him into canceling that trip. But Jason told him you were a lot more important than he was. That really got under his skin, but it was actually something you said on that trip which led to him making a breakthrough with the time travel portal. Me? What could I have said that would help him figure out something with time travel? It was when he was talking to you about something being in two places at the same time, replied Dennis. You asked him, if it was possible for something to be in 2 times at the same place. Asking that question unlocked everything in his brain, and while he loved being with you in Vegas, he couldn't wait to get back to the office and tell me what you had said, and what he thought it all meant.
I remember that conversation, said Mickey. Now it's starting to make sense. When I said that, he looked like he had just lived through an earthquake. I didn't know what he was thinking, and I had been conditioned not to ask questions, so I didn't. I do remember thinking at the time his reaction was weird.
Not half as weird as me seeing my young parents back in the 60s and 70s the first time. I even saw myself when I was a kid. It hit me so hard I passed out, said Dennis, laughing as he remembered the incident. There was a lull in the conversation, so Mickey asked the question on everybody's mind.
So, what now? Do we just let this guy get away with it? I mean, he basically killed my husband. Can he really get away with it?
Knock, knock, knock. Mickey cracked open the door to the office and yelled for Jace to see who it was. He was due to go somewhere with one of his friends, so it was probably the parents picking him up.
Make sure to tell me if you're going anywhere.
I will, Mom, yelled Jace as he walked toward the living room. The problem is the Admiral has Jason's key to the portal. Maybe if we had his key, we would be able to do something, responded Dennis as Mickey closed the door to the office again. This seemed to cast a pall over the assembly. Everyone stared at their cups of coffee. After Mickey repositioned her lace shawl over her shoulders and arms, she added,
I just have this feeling like we're missing something here. He sent me those letters. He said he wanted us all to meet together, but he didn't tell us what to talk about. He must have had a plan in mind.
I do, actually. 5 heads instantly spun towards the door. Standing there, holding his son in his arms, was Jason. Hey, fellow Galimarians, this is Dan Adrian, and I just wanted to say thank you for listening to my book. If you can, please click like down below because it really helps me bring these videos to you and lets me know what you like. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll get notified when I release more chapters. If you have any questions about this or any other of my books, or if you want to know more about what it takes to write a novel like this one, please make sure you leave your question in the comments below. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.